What's up, everyone? It's Rashad Hawk here in New York. I've been angel investing for the last few years. In the process, I've met and learned from some of the most amazing founders. Today, we have one such founder, my good friend Raad Ahmed from Lawtrades. Welcome, Raad. Maybe start with a quick intro and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey, how's it going, Rashad? Thanks for having me. Yep, my name is Raad. I am the founder and CEO of a company called Lawtrades. We're a B2B marketplace that connects pre-IPO and public tech companies to a network of freelance legal talent. Um, Born and raised in New York, our office is in Queens, and we just closed out our Series A round. And I'm excited to be here and chat with you about all things startups.
Great, thank you for that. So tell us a little bit about Lawtrades. What is it that you actually do? Like maybe give us some use cases. Where is it beneficial for the customers and clients?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a marketplace model. So we cater to two different pain points. We have a supply side of independent legal professionals that use our platform to find flexible work. So they can create a profile, see a curated list of job opportunities based on their practice area, their industry, their interest, how many hours they want to work, what time zone do they want to work on, do they want to do consumer internet or AI. We fully sort of customize this opportunity feed based on their preferences. And then we get them hired and they're able to actually earn their living off of our platform, practicing law in their own terms, in their own way. Very much in stark contrast to like the big law firm model or traditional employment where you're working at the same company for like 5, 10+ years, slaving away, trying to make partner, et cetera, et cetera. We basically turn these professionals into entrepreneurs. That's one side of it. The other side of it is our demand side. So we connect companies who typically have a legal department that is looking to essentially offload some of their day-to-day corporate transactional work to a much more affordable option than a traditional law firm or a staffing agency or a mix of both. The reason why companies like Coinbase and DoorDash and Airbnb love Lawtrades is it's a really seamless productized experience. So you can open the web app, create a position, immediately see a short list of candidates, interview them, hire them, and then work with them collaboratively through our dashboard really seamlessly. Now that's like a complete opposite experience if you, let's say, go on LinkedIn and post a job and you're going through like hundreds of unqualified resumes, you're playing ping pong back and forth on like what time you should chat. With Lawtrades, all the prices are transparent. The talent network is all vetted, so we only let about like 2% of the people that create profiles into our network, so you don't have to worry about doing like a bunch of screener interviews. They're way more affordable because ultimately this business model innovates off of the law firm business model, which we think is like really outdated and it hasn't been innovated on in the last 100 years. The reason why your lawyers are so expensive, especially in big corporate law firms, is there's usually partners at the top that make millions of dollars in bonuses off the backs of hundreds of thousands of associates. They have fancy offices in Park Avenue, and they're generally not really incentivized to bill less hours. They're incentivized to bill more hours, and that's tied to them keeping their jobs, so to speak. So the Lawtrades model is completely flat. It's a marketplace model. Think Uber, Airbnb, but for professional services. So prices are dramatically much more affordable, which means that you can hire way more people, get more stuff done. And last bit is like, our customers kind of like to call us like the AWS for legal services because we make it so seamless to be able to like scale up or down your legal team. You can start for as little as like 15 or 20 hours a week and scale that up to 200 plus. So yeah, it's a cool product. I will pause on my sales pitch there. I don't want to get all into that just yet, but yeah, it's a cool product that kind of benefits both sides.
That's great. Thank you for that. So given the market condition, right, is just overall, unless you're under a rock, it's been very hard to find talent, any talent really. Have you seen any uptick in, customers reaching out to get legal services? How is the current market treating you?
Yeah, so we think about hiring in, we have like two different hiring paths. Like one is the actual LawTrades platform network of how do we get the best and brightest legal professionals onto our platform. And with that, we're competing with everybody, right? We're competing with not only law firms that do billions of dollars in revenue, but also the Apples and the Googles and all the in-house jobs, right? So we really have to convince them to actually join this platform and show them that the freelance path, becoming an entrepreneur, is the much better path than sort of just like working within a company at like a fixed salary with like, not that much upward mobility or flexibility. So and then we have our internal hiring, and I would say for both of them, it was definitely really I would say that it was definitely really challenging over the last 3 years, I want to say, especially since like COVID hit. But I want to say that at least for the marketplace side of things, I feel like we've had a competitive advantage because we've automated so much of the onboarding and hiring process in our supply side network. Like we're really quick and really efficient with getting offers on the table, right? As opposed to headhunters or recruiters or companies that take you through like long-winded interviews and meetings to even just get to your, like, you create a profile in Lawtrades, you immediately see different opportunities with different prices and what your future earning potential could be. And with one click, you're able to just get hired by that client right away, right? So I think that during this time period, a lot of old people that recruit in the really old school way lost out on a lot of great talent, but the ones that are like really innovating and optimizing for speed will benefit. And obviously, when someone joins our platform, the companies that are on the other side end up benefiting from this technology, from this process that's really streamlined. So it's a win for them because they're able to get the best talent, and we've built out a flow so they can sort of hire them really, really quickly. I want to say one thing too, switching gears to like more of our internal hires, like engineers, designers, and all of that. I've actually recently noticed that it's gotten easier to hire great talent, partly because so many companies are laying off people that, like, if you do have a strong business with good unit economics, and like candidates care about that, I'm always very forthcoming, and like if you look at my Twitter and all that, like I'm very transparent with like our numbers, our financials. I tweet out our investor updates. Even like there is like some Google sheet doc out there that actually gives you can read through our month over month revenue. And I've always been very transparent about that with candidates, but you definitely hear it a lot more now when you speak with potential people that want to join your company about like, what's your burn? What was your last valuation? Like, how much revenue are you doing? And I think those are the right questions to ask, right? Like, no one wants to just join a company and like 6 months later they're doing a bunch of like layoffs, right? So I think that with a combination of like probably a lot of starts, and we're probably going to see way more layoffs, as a lot of people are saying. I think a combination with that and companies that have been highly reliant on VC money and subsidizing their payroll through that kind of stopping. I think it becomes a lot easier to recruit and convince people in that way, because not everybody's on crazy aggressive hiring mode, which I think that's what was happening last year. So yeah, I think like because we weathered that storm and was still sort of around, we've been chatting with really great engineers, really great designers, really great product managers, and knock on wood, it stays like that, and we end up bringing on some great people this year.
Great, thank you for that. So I think you already started talking about where you are as a company, but maybe we take a little detour. So let me tell me about a little bit about your personal background. Obviously I follow you on Twitter, so that's a plug to follow Raad on Twitter. He's pretty famous there. Tell us about your personal story. You grew up in New York, first generation immigrant. What was it like growing up in New York?
um I love New York. I love New York City. I've lived in San Francisco for a bit when we were going through 500 startups, and like I think deep down every day I was dying to come back here. So yeah, as you alluded to, first generation American, first one to graduate high school, college, law school. Grew up in an overcrowded 2-bedroom house when my parents came here. My dad was, had a bunch of odd jobs like delivering newspapers, moving people's furniture. My mom was kind of like, typical kind of Bengali stay-at-home mom, looked after us. Grew up in a pretty, I don't want to say like super rigid, but definitely like getting a degree in education and all of that was like the emphasis, and then everything else was secondary. So anytime that, I do a lot of creative things on the side, and that a lot of that started at like a young age, like playing music, making art, drawing, creating comic books. I love doing all those things, but it wasn't really encouraged growing up, especially doing things on the internet and internet companies, because my parents didn't understand the internet. So that was a bit of a friction point. But I think I obviously have a very deep appreciation and gratitude for my parents to have just come to this country and like kind of give me this life. I think I definitely during COVID, I thought about like what it would be like to just still be in Bangladesh, while everything was going down. And obviously there's great progress and stuff happening there, but like, frankly, like, I don't know if I would be where I am today without them kind of moving here and giving me the opportunity to do, to pursue whatever I kind of like want to pursue. So, yeah, I mean, I stayed in New York for most of my life, grew up in Long Island, went to high school in Long Island. I played in a punk rock band in high school, wanted to tour with them instead of going to college. Instead, my parents were like, no, you have to be a pharmacist. And I was like, okay, cool, fine. No problem, I'll do that. I failed all my chemistry classes like my first year. And then I got really into philosophy and philosophy of law. And then eventually I added legal studies to that. So I love reading, I love writing, and I love thinking very deeply about certain topics, not a whole lot of topics. So I got into that, and that eventually led to law school. I did an internet company while I was in law school before I started Lawtrades, and then yeah, fast forward a couple of years, and that's where I am. That's where I am now.
So you talked about typical immigrant family, upbringing, right? In some ways, do you feel like that helped you to did that push you towards entrepreneurship, or you kind of found your own way, kind of rebelling, through that process and making your own way into entrepreneurship?
I don't think that it was encouraged at all. Growing up, I think uh, the the path of being a professional and being a lawyer, and having a degree and going into a desk job, that was sort of like the key. I think I have very good instincts, and I've always had that growing up. And I can convince my mind of one thing, like this is what society wants, this is what my parents want. But deep down, I think that I always end up going with my gut and going with my intuition, which oftentimes creates a lot of conflict and friction between family and friends and people that are, and I'm still very much like that even today. There's a lot of dissatisfied people that I know from just decisions that I've made, and I'm okay with that. I don't really mind that. But yeah, it definitely was was quite a bit of an uphill battle, a little bit of like a um, you know, I've always rebelled growing up. I think like a lot of kids do, but like I guess I just never like grew up. So I just viewed like starting an internet company as the ultimate act of rebellion at that time, because I was like, all right, like, you want me to make like 6 figures like as a salary, like I'm gonna make it in like one day, like watch, right? So it's kind of like one of those things. And obviously now like my dad has like come around and he's super proud of everything that I've done. But I think specifically for like first generation Americans, it's hard to sort of tell your parents that you're going to not go on this career path, but also like explain to them why, right? It's like, to them, my dad, he had no choice but to start a business because he didn't have a degree, right? He couldn't get a comfortable office job and like, you know, like have the comfortable life or easy life, so to speak. So to him, hearing that I wanted to like start a company was just kind of like, why? Like, why would you do that when you have like every school at your disposal, and like you have access to like all these institutions and all of that. So it didn't really make a lot of sense. But I've just learned that I think like the more you just piss off people, the more right you probably are, and you should continue to sort of go in that direction, whether that's family or friends or society. So yeah, luckily I stuck with it, and I think it turned out okay so far.
Yeah. No, I mean, a lot of good points there, right? I think just to have, I guess, some sympathy for the immigrant parents as well. You know, they had a life of hardship. A lot of the time, they think if you pursue entrepreneurship, it's going to be just as hard for you. So they want you to take the safe route, which is like, you know, being a professional. So, but I guess talk about your, you know, even though you're born here, you grew up here, you know, pretty much an immigrant, had that immigrant experience. Did that help you in any way? I guess, you know, kind of toughen you up, give you more perseverance. And is that helping you now? I guess being an entrepreneur, like how do you relate that experience to overall?
Yeah, I think growing up poor definitely helps building a business, because um, your pain tolerance is really high, right? So it's like when I get rejected by investors, like I'm like, okay, well, like I think go home and still eat, and like I have a roof over my head and I have a bed. Like that's just the words. That's just like who cares, right? And I think for a lot of people, you know, like they get their ego involved, and it's a psychological thing, and they're just like, oh my god. I guess like I have a high threshold for pain, and appreciation as well, right? Like I don't take any of this for granted, because I know what it was like, what life was like without any of that. And I appreciate every single day. I appreciate every single employee that I have the privilege of working with and hiring. I appreciate every single investor. I appreciate every single dollar that comes into the business. I don't really ever lose sight of that. And I think just, you know, in general, like you grow some grit, right? I didn't really have a totally sheltered life. So um, you know, like I wasn't getting into like gang fights or anything like that, or like I wasn't part of the Bloods or Crips or anything like that. But like, you know, I was driven. I wanted more. I was tired of being poor, right? I wanted to make some freaking money. And when I did some research on that, it seemed like you know, I'm a good musician, but I'm not like a great musician. Like it would be really hard to like be better than like you know, like Coldplay or whatever. Like I kind of knew, I kind of accepted that defeat. I was just like, okay, I'm not going to be that. But I think with like building a company, I thought that I had a decent shot, or I still think that I have a decent shot. I kind of can look at a business, look at an app, look at a product, and be like, I think I could do that. And I think I could have some fun in that process, and there's some creativity involved into it. And as a byproduct, you are able to generate some money that allows you to keep doing that thing that you like doing. So that concept really resonated with me. And and yeah, I mean, yeah, I think it's molded me to some extent.
It's great. So immigrant law school, what kind of, I guess, tell us the origin story of law trades. Like, how did that come about?
Yeah, so I had the idea for Lawtrades while I was still a law student in law school. Um, So in my second year of law school, I actually started my first commercially viable internet company. It was one of the first apps in the Facebook App Store, and it essentially allowed people to customize their cover photo, like that banner image up there. So like, this is a couple of years ago, but at that time they made this huge announcement that we're gonna add this wallpaper looking thing to your profile. So I thought it'd be a cool idea to make an app slash website where you can browse through thousands of them, and with one click it automatically would change it on your cover photo. Then I just added this little growth hack where every single time you changed it would post it on your timeline, so all your friends would see you use this website and app to download it. And eventually, to my surprise, it grew to about 30 million hits a month, and I sold some banner ads on it and turned it into a six-figure business while I was in law school. And I think that that was like the light bulb moment for me, that this thing, this idea of building stuff on the internet could actually be a viable, like sustainable career path. Because like at that time, as I was interviewing with different like firms, I was actually like making more money than they were offering me, and basically doing like 1 hour a week of work to upkeep the site. So I was just like, that makes no sense. I'm gonna go do another version of that. And that's ultimately where like the Lawtrades idea was born from. I guess I had a little bit of the confidence from that previous thing. I mean, that was eventually, we got like destroyed by like competitors, and I didn't raise any money for it, and like, you know, it eventually sort of dwindled out. But that was a little bit of the learning lesson where like, you know, if I want to do this, I have to do it right. I have to focus on it. I have to keep improving it every single day, little by little. And that ethos is still there in the company. Get like, you know, be better by like 1% every day, or maybe not 1%, maybe like 0.25% every single day. And if you can do that, you know, consecutively for like 5, 6, 7 years, like you're gonna probably get somewhere. So there's a little bit of that confidence, and then also I think the general motivation with Lawtrades is I wanted to get some of my classmates hired on the internet, because they were having a lot of trouble finding jobs. I myself as well. I mean, I knew I wasn't going to work at a firm, but it was one of the worst like legal job markets, and I didn't understand like why there just wasn't a platform where a lawyer can just sign up and like work with clients over the internet and deliver legal services over the internet and get paid to do so. There were existing marketplaces at the time like Upwork and Fiverr, but they didn't really lend itself to like professional services, which is like obviously like a higher project value, and it's more based off your time and your hours that you spend, and less based on a project. And I was seeing like Uber taking off, I was seeing Airbnb taking off, and I was just like, I want to do that, right? Like I want to build like a version of that, but for the legal industry. And I have enough knowledge from like going to law school and working at a couple of firms like as internships, and I think that that actually brought me like to gave me some advantage, because I never actually like practiced law. Like the day before my bar, I was just like, I'm going to just work on this thing. I remember I was like working through some bug on the site, and like, I was just like, I'm not like, that's just not, I can't do it 50-50. I want to go like all in on it. And that totally pissed off my parents. Separate side story with that. But yeah, honestly, it was just like, I wanted to get more people jobs, and the platform didn't exist. And it started off as a SaaS tool, then it eventually evolved into a marketplace model for small businesses. And then today, now we're pretty much serving big brands and enterprises. So it's been quite a journey, sort of finding our product market fit. But I think we have it now.
That's great. So tell us about your product market fit, right? So initially you started out, I guess, being a more of a consumer facing platform, right? How did that kind of evolve into what you are today, and just, you know, the twist and turn of that journey?
Yeah, so Lawtrade started off as like the ZocDoc for lawyers. So if you guys aren't familiar with ZocDoc, it's like basically this, this directory of dentists and lawyers where you could browse through their real-time availabilities and book an appointment with them. So I made a version of that, but for booking appointments with lawyers across all different types of practice areas and categories. There was a couple of like learnings with that, which is one, don't go super broad, to basically market to every single type of law was an absolute nightmare, especially given that it was just basically me. And then eventually 6 months later, I got my co-founder involved, but we were doing divorce law, we were doing personal injury, we were doing bankruptcy. And it's just kind of like each one of those like requires its own separate like go to market and strategy. And there's no possible way that two people can kind of figure that out. But we had a business, we had real revenue. That's one thing about Lawtrades is like from day one, no matter what, we had revenue, and we made that work one way or another, even if it wasn't the perfect product market fit. So we sold this subscription to lawyers where they can add this little booking widget to their website, and they were basically able to convert their traffic more efficiently because people can book a real-time appointment with them, and they could get like a free consultation with that lawyer, and they've gotten them a lead. But as I said, it was too broad, and I didn't want to be in the lead gen business, and that's kind of what I found myself getting into, which was the more lawyers we signed up, the more leads we needed, and it just ended up just being like an unsustainable model. And I always knew I wanted to build a marketplace. We just didn't have the resources at the time to build like a matchmaking algorithm, a chat app, a payment rails. Like it was just, we just needed a launching pad to get to the next step. And I think ultimately I knew even then I wanted to work with the biggest companies in the world, but like I just knew like I had to do it step by step and eventually sort of get there. So we basically made this iteration into a marketplace model for small businesses and startups. So everything from like your local barbershops to YC companies, they would come to us and be able to, incorporate your business, file a trademark. And we created this really amazing product flow that was very Amazon-esque. Like you could go onto the website, search for any sort of legal project you want to get done, see an immediate flat fee price, buy now, pay with your credit card, half upfront, half when the project's done. And it was a beautiful product experience. And I think like light years ahead of anything else that was basically out there. And we raised our seed round off this idea. The problem was that our retention was absolutely terrible. Most small businesses and startups go out of business in like their first year, right? So that in itself was like fighting against the current. And then frankly, if you are an early stage startup founder, you're not like waking up in the morning just going like, I can't wait to spend lots of money on legal right now, right? Like that's probably the last thing on your list. Like you're trying to hire engineers, developers, you're trying to get to ramen profitability. Like you're not like legal is not really top of mind. So there's always just kind of like this hesitation to sort of use our service, and it's like, it is what it is. But the problem is like we were working like 10 times harder, because not only were we doing a marketplace startup, which means like it's a regular startup times 2, because you have 2 different customer sets and you're trying to find liquidity for it. But because our revenue wasn't sticky, every month we would have to rebuild our revenue from scratch, right? So like we got it to like, I think 200 or 300K a month in top line revenue, which I think is like not bad given like, the small team and like the small like round that we raised. But we knew it wasn't sustainable. And I think like early on, like, again, my intuition coming up again was just sort of like, we need to find profitable customers. And eventually we discovered this one user that was using our platform every single day. And he had this title called General Counsel. And I had no idea what that title meant. Was he an army general? Was he like, a lawyer? I had no idea. I had to Google it. Found out that these people are basically in charge of all of the legal operations within a company, and they use legal services like crazy. And they're always looking for a better alternative to a law firm that's cheaper, faster, better. And he ended up being the general counsel for this company called EquityZen. Hopped on a call with him, and we were just like, why are you using the platform so much? And he was just like, you need to get rid of the buy now project button. I just want to work with this lawyer for the next 6 to 8 months, and I'll pay you guys like a monthly fee. And that's when the light bulb moment went off, because this guy was basically spending, I think at that time, at least like 100x more than like any other customer that was like on our platform at the time. So we made this gigantic pivot again of like building out this still a marketplace, but something that's built around delivering professional services over the long term for ongoing relationships, something that's enterprise friendly for customers, a differentiated supply side where like people were not really looking for just one-off projects, but actually like ongoing work that they can like sustainably earn their livelihood off of. and then a dashboard that allowed people to sort of collaborate and transparently see who's working on what, and like more spend analytics and more communication tools. And it started with a Google Sheet, that pivot. And then now it's kind of like, you know, this big whole fancy algorithmic driven platform. But before that, you know, it was like steering the ship. And I think we did it right at the perfect timing because we were running out of cash. Yeah, we grew the business back from like nearly dead to about a $10 million revenue run rate, and still growing.
It's awesome. So you talked about the big pivot. You know, one thing that I always get reminded of, you know, if you have, let's say, like 30+% attrition, you're dead in 3 months, basically, if you don't get any new customers, right? So you have similar issues where unless you get new customers and continue to grow your customer base, you basically will die in a certain time period. So
yeah, exactly. And we didn't have like the cash to, like, we had some cash, but it was like a never ending battle of like, spend more money on AdWords, get a bunch of customers, 30% like churn, and then spend more money on AdWords. And like, and it was just like an unhealthy cycle of growth. And I think that, you know, a lot of founders don't really see that harsh reality or that harsh truth and actually do something about it. I think that there's some level of delusion that it's going to sort of figure itself out. And with just this feature and this improvement, it's like, no, like it's not incremental improvements that's going to fundamentally change your unit economics. It's a gigantic shift in your product, in your customer segment, in your way of thinking. And it sucked. We had to, at that time, this is like, I think 2018 or something like that. We pretty much laid off almost everybody in the team. And this is like obviously pre-recession or anything like that. But like, that taught us a lot of valuable lessons that we even to this day use. We're extremely paranoid about churn, even though like our business is healthy. It was cash flow positive last year. We're still looking at each and every dollar that comes in and each and every dollar that leaves. And I think that really shook us. But you know, it's in our DNA now. Like we're not like growth at all costs, and we let that know to all of our investors pretty upfront. Like, we're building this for the long term. Like, this is, you know, I view this as a generational company. I want to pass this company down to my kids and my kids' kids and my kids' kids. And in order to do that, right, I can't just bet the company on one acquisition channel just for the sake of like top line growth. It's going to be up and down in the short term, but over the long term, you see the leaps and bounds that we make. So yeah, I mean, yeah, to your point, it's reality, and I think that a lot of people are in denial of that, and they don't really act fast enough.
Great. So you're at $10 million revenue and growing about, I don't know what you said, 2x. Well, you grew 2x last year, right?
Yeah, so we grew like 2.5x last year. We doubled the year before. I think this year, I think like many companies, we're even more conservative with our spend and burn and all of that. But even conservatively speaking, we should at the very least double. But like on like the mid-level length, it'll probably be triple. But we'll see. We'll see how it pans out.
And you have a head count of how many people?
17, about to be 18 in like next month.
So $10 million plus on 18 FTEs. It's amazing.
Yeah, I didn't know that was like an amazing thing until I dropped it on that WhatsApp group that we're in, and then people were like commenting on it, and I was just like, oh, like I thought everybody did this. Like why would you need more people? Like, you know, that's like you just automate a bunch of stuff and like hire less people. I didn't know that was like a big deal. But again, I think it goes to show you how like frugal we are, but frugal to a certain extent. We wouldn't do it at, you know, if it meant we had to sacrifice the quality of our product and services. But you know, like we're fresh off the Series A raise and we've barely touched it, and we're still very meticulous in who we hire and when we hire. And like, you know, we have this thing where we look at our gross profits, and like unless that goes up, like we always think twice about bringing somebody else there. It's almost kind of like it's sort of like a rinse and repeat where like, okay, like we can increase our burn by like adding like 1 or 2 people, But unless our profits go up, like accordingly, maybe 1 or 2 months, like following, like we don't want to add more people, right? It's like almost kind of like as that grows, then add another people, then like rinse and repeat and kind of climb it that way. But I know like a lot of companies, might not have that strong revenue growth. But for us, we're just sort of like, unless the profits grow, like we don't want to bring on more people. Like let's try to figure out ways that we can be creative with getting things done without adding more headcount.
Yeah. So that's great. Thanks for that background. So what does the next, let's say, 2 years look like for Lawtrades? Yeah, I think you're at a point you hit product market fit. You're getting a lot of these great clients like Coinbase, ZocDoc, and others. What does the next 2 year looks like for you and then the company?
Yeah. So in the short term, next month we're releasing an iOS and Android app that will literally be probably, doesn't sound as amazing, right? Because like everyone else has apps, but that'll be probably one of the first apps in the legal industry within marketplace and legal services to ever come out with an app. Like no one's done that before, right? And it's actually quite complex when you think about like how engagements happen on Lawtrades. So in the short term, I think there is this like focus on transitioning remote work into mobile. Predominantly a lot of people, for us, it's like the transition has been like getting people to sort of be okay with remote work, which we've been sort of doing since like day one. But now it's like, how do you create a frictionless process when you don't have a screen in front of you to actually be able to do the work and be able to log in your hours, and for clients to be able to seamlessly see it and interact with it over their phone, or maybe just tell Siri, start my timer, bill like 20 hours for so and so. So there's that theme like going on in the short term. I think in the long term, honestly, like we really want to just focus on the fundamentals, right? Like hire great team members, maintain strong unit economics, wow every single customer that uses us so it's an unforgettable experience, make the platform so good that it would be irresponsible for a legal department or a general counsel not to give us a shot, right? So I think like a lot of those core principles will sort of remain the same. Obviously we want to be like the number one player within the legal services industry. I think we have a far superior product for sure. I think we have a far superior business model. I think that the future of legal professionals are going to be joining platforms like this where they have more freedom and flexibility. So we think all the great talent are going to be joining, a marketplace like us, or there's other adjacent marketplaces that do what we do, but for like finance and management consulting. I think that you'll start to see over the next 10 years this new wave of marketplaces that isn't as like simple as like, getting food delivered or, getting some one-off project done on Upwork. It'll start to be really sophisticated services delivered in a very, very specific way using product and software. We want to be like the top player in that field. So build great product, hire great team members, and have fun in that process. That's been my recipe for like the last couple of years, and I think like we'll sort of stick by that. I don't know if we're gonna add Lawtrades to the blockchain anytime soon, or give a bunch of lawyers like VR headsets, but like when the opportunity comes and it presents itself, it'd be cool for lawyers to get paid out by crypto. And they're already starting to be augmented by AI in terms of the matchmaking process. And I think that we'll get deeper and deeper into that workflow of the work itself, because we're sitting on so much data on like the nitty gritty of legal work. And I think like the next evolution, once we've perfected the payments and the matchmaking and the overall platform experience, it's how do we streamline the work itself using software and tools. And I don't think it's going to be just completely AI like a lot of companies do. I don't think a lot of lawyers will like bet their jobs on just letting an AI handle like a complex deal. And I don't think it's also the other extreme of just completely human powered services, which is where law firms and different staffing agencies live right now. I think there's a middle ground equilibrium, which is kind of where we live. And I think that, that's a tremendous opportunity. It's a tremendous market. And later on down the road, if we can replicate what we're doing within legal to other adjacent industries, whether it's management consulting or finance or anything else, like that would be pretty cool to get into, but we're definitely heads down on legal for the time being.
Got it. So I think you're at a point you have product market fit. Do you foresee maybe bringing on more sales folks or whatnot to kind of accelerate that growth? Like what is your vision, I guess, in the short to medium term?
Yeah, I think that um so my co-founder typically handles more of like the biz dev salespeople, and I'm more on the product engineering marketing side of things. Um, the approach that we've taken is we have different revenue thresholds that once we hit that and our sales team is at like full capacity or they're like over exceeding their quotas, we start to bring in new headcount that way. So we're not necessarily like, adding more salespeople to grow faster. I think that we're already growing without them a bit through different channels and community-based things and different initiatives. It's a lot of word of mouth growth, to be honest with you. So we're just kind of taking the approach of like making sure everybody hits their capacity and then start layering on more people there. We are experimenting with different we're doing outbound for the first time ever. Everything has been inbound for the time being. So that's been a really interesting experiment. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I view like sales hires as a very numbers, metrics driven thing. If outbound works out, maybe we'll hire a few more like SDRs, but I think like what we're doing on the community side, we host lots of events. We fly out to like various cities to meet with our customers. I'm going to Boston tomorrow actually for like a dinner with a bunch of customers and future customers. We do like virtual workshops where like we have hundreds of people attend. We have a private Slack community. So we have a very big community. We do lots of memes and some of them go viral, and then those ones end up turning into sales. So like, I don't know, we're thinking of creative ways of like generating demand that isn't as like salesy as like a typical B2B company. I think that one of our core values is fun, and we try to sort of like make it fun kind of to get customers instead of it just being like blast out 1,000 cold emails and hopefully one of them sort of sticks. I don't know. That just doesn't like feel right to me, and I wouldn't want to get cold emailed. But yeah, it's a numerical based approach of balancing community with sales capacity.
That's fair. So almost coming up on the hour. One last, I guess, question, right? Any sort of immigrant, minority, or underrepresented founder who might be watching this, any advice for them? If they're young, maybe in college, or just trying to figure out what profession, career to pursue. What advice would you have for them if they wanted to pursue entrepreneurship?
Yeah, I would say like don't overthink it and just start. It's so easy to just like create a landing page, on Squarespace or Card or whatever or Webflow. That's how it started, and that was like still one of my most like that was like one of the happiest moments when I bought the domain name to Lawtrades, and I had a basic landing page which just had a wait list of like, if you want to provide legal services or if you want to receive legal services, sign up here. And I owned that. And I was like, that was like a magical feeling for me. It was like, I didn't need like really anything else. I didn't need outside investors. I didn't need employees. I had my own thing that I created, with my bare hands, but digitally or whatever. And that was just like an amazing feeling. I'm not saying that like entrepreneurship or starting a company is for everybody, right? And that's totally fine too. It's not like if you don't start a company, like you suck or something like that. But if you do have like an inkling, just do it, you know, and like think about it, like think about how you can help somebody. That's ultimately what it is. It's one human being helping out another human being. And in that process of helping them, they are exchanging money for that help. And that feels good. It feels good to like empower people. It feels good to economically support a bunch of internet strangers that I've never met before, but they're using this as their main source of income. So I would say just like get started, do it as like a side project. You don't have to like fully commit. You don't need to get into YC. You don't need to get into 500. You don't need seed money. You don't need pre-seed money. You don't need angels. You just need an idea and a drive to want to help your fellow human beings. And if you do that and it starts working out, then you get to the fun part, which is convincing your parents. And that's honestly, it's probably going to suck unless you have really cool parents that are very, and I've had some friends that had like, it's like you have like the typical sort of like, Daisy parents that are like 90% of them are just like very like, gung-ho school, whatever. But then there's always like the 5 or 10% that's like the cool parents that just let you do whatever. And like, they'll let you like, just like, like stay up all night and you could hang out with your friends after dark and you could skateboard without a helmet. So if you have one of those parents, then like, you're all good. Like you shouldn't even think twice about starting a company. But I think like the vast majority of us have parents that like, maybe now it's a little bit easier for them to sort of digest what the internet basically is. But, just have that hard conversation. But like, at the end of the day, I don't know, it's a little bit of YOLO, right? Like you got one life, like you might as well just take a shot at doing the thing that, you have an itch for. And if it works out, great. If it doesn't, it's not like it costs like millions of hundreds of thousands of dollars to get started. You just don't do it or you do something else. So just lower the barrier of entry and just give it a shot. And if it works out, like it will totally change your life. I think like I love running a company. Like that is like the most fun thing ever, like, because you get to learn every single day. You almost get to like choose your friends. Like I feel like growing up, like you either just like have your high school friends, your college friends by default, but you never could really like pick your friends. And I feel like when you build a company, you get to surround yourself with the people you actually want to hang out with. And they're smart and they're cool and they're just awesome human beings to be around with. And you get to like, not to sound cliche, but you get to like actually change the world in some subtle way. You present a new idea and it touches people's lives, and you get to do it on the internet, which is like infinitely scalable. And I just love that. I love that. I can't like see myself doing anything else. If I was a better skateboarder, maybe I would have like tried to go pro and like, be the brown Tony Hawk, but I wasn't that good at skateboarding either. So I'd say go for it. It's awesome. Don't think twice.
Great, man. Thanks. Well, thank you, Raad. This has been a pleasure. Thanks for spending the time with us. The brown Tony Hawk. I guess we'll wrap with brown Tony Hawk.
Can that be the podcast title?
The brown Tony Hawk.
And then completely blindside people with a legal marketplace instead?
Sure, let's do it. No, I really appreciate it. I think people will enjoy this. And thanks for going through your personal history as well as the Lawtrades background.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Rashad. Yeah, thanks for having me. This was super fun.
All right, take care. Bye.
Peace.